So, welcome to Two Cups of Blood. I'm Matt, a semi-retired goth-industrial DJ, IT professional, and I record and release music under the name Vellocet.
Excellent music.
Oh, thank you.
By the by. Mechno Sferatu, former goth entrepreneur and tech experimenter, and it's going to be different every time. I'm just resigned to that. It's slightly different, but yeah.
That's fine. And I hope future goth entrepreneur.
Oh, sure. I can't stay out of it.
Good. Good.
So, yeah. Wow. How you been, man?
Up and down. Good
Yeah.
things, bad things, as always.
Yeah, that's, I guess life always has texture, and you gotta, when you're in a healthy frame, you can see that without the texture, it would be worse. So you need...
Maybe.
Well, you can't live like a manic life that if everything is wonderful always, it just means there's something wrong with you.
Maybe.
Because the world is not like that.
It's an awfully goth perspective of you to have.
Hey, I wonder how that happened. But, yay. So we did a whole bunch of shit.
That's true. Do we want to talk about the bullshit drinks first?
Yes, yeah, let's.
Okay, well, one is bullshit, the other one is not.
Well, I guess they're both bullshit, depending. Yeah, this is the special negativity episode. This is, maybe we'll keep it mercifully, contained. But
we got a little heavy last time, and I really wanted this time to be more.
No,
upbeat.
I mean, I think it'll be funnier. I think it'll still be funny, but okay, yeah. So the drink that I have is from an Albany local meadery. I'm drinking Royal Meadery's Grapefruit Juniper Mead, and it's nice. It's not excessively sweet. It's something of I am relaxing my grip on carb counting and not being so freaky deaky about it, and just like doing stuff here and there.
Good.
So I like it. I'd say, now this is going to be a question that, back me up on this or call me out on this, depending. If you've ever had the Stella Artois cider,
I have.
It reminds me of that, in that imagine if you took, that's a particularly dry cider. And if you kind of shifted that horizontally into the mead category, that's somewhat like this would be, which is to say, it may not be for everybody. I think they're a very nice local meadery. Their shop is super cute.
Yeah.
They have very limited hours, but Royal Meadery, and I say this with no sponsorship. There is no there's nothing going under the table, but it's a local business, and they're doing some neat things, and it's cool. They're creative, and you can see that in how they're doing their stuff. Good logo.
Yeah, very good design. I noticed that. Super cute place, very well appointed, beautiful little bar, and very cool stuff.
I'd like to say that I arranged a private mead tasting for us. But the truth is, it was a rainy day today, and we went just as they opened. So we were literally the only people there, and they were gracious in giving us little samples of anything we were remotely interested in, which was cool.
Yeah, it was really nice. What I found interesting is they have a bourbon barrel aged mead, which was very interesting. Because you have those mead flavors and a little bit of the bourbon barrel effect, and it's very reminiscent of something that's escaping me right now, but really liked it. Good stuff and different.
Yeah, what are is that the
Queen something?
Queen's aged?
Something like that.
Queen aged? Something like whatever.
Barrel-aged Queens.
I suck.
Something. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, that shit. What are you drinking right now?
Right now, what I'm drinking is, and I'm not an energy drink person, but it's a Monster Ultra Red with some of my favorite vodka, which I think we've mentioned before, Jewel of Russia. It is really, really tasty, smooth, really not overpriced, very good vodka. Just because it's the only unflavored vodka I have is why I mixed it with this. I did try some vanilla vodka with it initially, but that was a little too something. So I just switched to a more neutral spirit. And it's pretty good. Hopefully it won't wear me up too much.
For some reason, the taste of the vanilla vodka and Ultra Red Monster reminds me of that deformed Hawaiian Punch Man rolling around in yogurt.
Ugh.
Like that's that kind of, in a good way though. In a good way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite an image.
Well, what's up with that dude? Did he have antlers? Or were those his hair? Was that his hair?
It was probably some kind of traditional Hawaiian thing, and you're just shitting all over somebody's culture.
There's all these legacy super racist icons that like just nobody questions it anymore. I recently saw the original Red Robin.
Oh yeah,
like the original advertisement or mascot, I should say, was a red robin that had a joint in his hand and was stoned to the gills, like eyes half shut. It was ridiculous.
Well, that's probably coming back pretty soon.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, they got it. They're set.
Good to go, man.
Why not?
It's about goddamn time. Like, seriously. This notion that, like, it's okay to legislate what other people can and can't do with their own bodies is absurd.
It's pretty fucking ridiculous. Yeah.
Like, it just blows my mind that the same people who want to legislate that are super, super against any corporate control because they don't like the notion that a government is too controlling. Like, this just blows my mind, but whatever, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's cool. Hey, it's great.
Yeah. We're going to keep it light.
Yeah, it's cool. Everything's cool. I mean, it's a weird world, and I guess there's a presence that, like, it's always been weird.
Yeah. No matter how clear or no matter how rosy you think things are looking back on them, shit was always fucked up. Like, I rarely get nostalgic for the 80s. Because, I mean, that's really the decade I grew up in. And it was pretty uncomfortable for a number of reasons, you know. We didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of friends. My parents didn't get along well. And there was a real sense of, you know, impending nuclear disaster that I think a lot of people sort of overlook when they look back at 80s
and
toys
now it's 80s night.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Like, now it's reduced to, like, giant shoulder pads and new wave. But
right. I mean, that was certainly part of it. But there was a darker side to all that stuff that people tend to forget. But I just still, like, I was watching, like, you know, Beverly Hills Cop was on or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I really got on this kick in my head about, how much simpler it would have been to live in the 80s. Now, it would have been simpler because life has gotten more fucked up since then. But it wouldn't have been better. It just would have been a little different.
I think this is my philosophical musing on this is that when you see someone dancing with reckless abandon, it could be because they believe that they may die tomorrow.
This is
so
true.
Like, that's kind of the 80s. It's like, fuck it. I'm going to put on this neon blazer and just rip shit, do a bunch of cocaine, and go for it.
That's certainly part of the spirit of that decade. Yeah, take as much as you can, I think is definitely something that came out of there.
Yeah, I guess like having a bad actor become president, is that worse than like, is like that better than where we are now? Like he was a fucking asshole.
People look, I still can't understand how, and I don't mean to get political, but people look back at Reagan or, people think he was some kind of hero. I remember going through that stuff. I remember Farm Aid. I remember how he like bankrupted everybody. I don't know. Like I can't understand that stuff.
History is only dealt with in the abstract, and so, it's like we always imagine the good old days, I guess, and they just weren't. At the time, they were full of struggle. But I mean, maybe we'll like at 2050, we'll be thinking about now and how like, oh, I wish we had a retarded president again.
Maybe,
but
I find looking back at TV interesting because, oh my God, if you watch the A-Team or Knight Rider or what's the other one that occurred to me? The Dukes of Hazzard, they're so fucking terrible. And that was like some of the tip of the spear of the greatest television that was being produced in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And we're in such a golden age right now where everyone's competing so hard for your attention, trying to make things that are better and better.
Yes and no.
But there's a lot of good stuff though going on today.
That's true. It's true. I mean,
I wonder how crap it's going to look in 20 or 30 years, as you say,
When you look at, like, I'm going to pick out the Dukes of Hazzard because the Dukes of Hazzard, it was really like a show that was phoned in. Like, the edits were bad. Like, maybe they were on a super tight schedule and they were like, you have to edit this show in the time it takes for the show to air. So you have like 1 hour to edit it. And that's why you would see the car like crack in half in one shot. And then in the next shot, it's perfectly fine. And that was like a routine thing. Like every episode, the editing was that bad. But maybe 20 years from now, they're going to look at what we have and they'll be like, that is the fakest looking computer generated effect I've ever seen. How could people have put up with this? This is ridiculous.
Well, we might be looking back and saying, Jesus, why were people filming things back then? Why weren't they just animating everything? Maybe live action photography is going to be a thing of the past at some point. Mm-hmm. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll do a 20th anniversary podcast and we'll comment on it. Excuse me. So just to backtrack for a second.
Yeah.
I am very deliberate with how I use the term retarded. And because our current president is remedial in so many facets, I think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave it there.
Well.
And it's not, I'm just leaving it there. Because, I don't know, I'm conscientious about things. And I don't like taking words completely out of the use pool, because there is an occasion where that word is the right word.
Yeah.
So
I'd say so.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's fine.
All right, cool. All right then.
So a week or 2 weeks ago, we went out to Boston.
Was that last week?
That
was 1 week ago.
Was it?
Yeah, that was just 1 week ago.
That whole weekend, was eaten up by that trip. And, well, I stayed overnight. You just went back, but I
didn't get a whole lot more weekend than you. It's driving. So we not to talk too much, but we ended up taking a road trip to catch a show.
Yep. We went up. It was put on by Corrosion, which is what is it? A monthly night usually? Weekly? Probably monthly.
periodic. We'll just call it a periodic. Because, I think they are. Corrosion as a club night happens the first Saturday of the month. So occasionally the Capital District will get, oh my gosh, so bubbly. We'll get DJ rotation in between from Corrosion if the dates fall right and the first Saturday of the month is a different week than the first Friday of the month, which happens like once or twice a year.
Okay. So I've never been out to their dance night, but in this case they were putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
So we went out there to see. It was The Blood of Others, Salve.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Latin reference to solve coagula. Dissolve, combine. Yeah, they're the two things. So his is the dissolution. Yes.
Okay. CMB, which stands for Cosmic Microwave Background, and Kanga was the headliner, which I think everyone was excited about. Wanted to see her and check out her act.
It was a rarity. She doesn't. Since she moved to the West Coast, it's very rare for her to do an East Coast appearance, especially one that's not attached to any tour or anything. Just happens.
Okay.
So it was something that couldn't be missed.
I wasn't clear on the background or the context
urgency
there. Yeah, it's interesting. So The Blood of Others, I enjoyed them. They were kind of mixed reactions. Some people enjoyed their stuff, some people didn't. I did. I thought, I liked the atmosphere, I liked the feeling they had. So I might try to check some of their stuff out, see what the recorded work is like. Salve, I think, was the same. I did not connect with their stuff, but a lot of other people really did, so not sure on them. They weren't my cup of tea, but...
Salve has some interesting... from the studio, they're more like a tribal industrial kind of thing.
More almost on the ambient side, would you say? Or
well,
not ambient, but like less dancey, more listen-y?
Yes, I could see that. Well, yeah, I suppose. I'm not. I don't want to talk out my ass because I'm not huge into them, but I know that a couple people who do like them, and I think that they fall into sort of an Ivardensphere kind of category where you can either listen or do like a droning dance, but in a concert performance, it's a little, could be a little not optimal. Like, I think that like putting this pressure to do a performance, like to be an entertainment while performing his music is hard, but
okay.
That's just my guess.
Yeah.
I thought they were okay. They're not, lyrically, I think everybody had some challenges.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of tuned out. I didn't really pay attention to his lyrics, but The Blood of Others, it's the one criticism I would have is some of the lyrics I caught weren't super great to me, but that's another matter of taste, I suppose.
Sure.
CMB I thought was actually really good. I didn't know what to expect, and they were a little bit different, a little bit more on they were probably the least gothiest act. They were more on a not straight, but more in the, I guess, a techno area or
trancey sort of stuff. Yeah. I mean, I think that we were discussing earlier, I think that they have like a festival circuit vibe. Like I could see them happening at like a side trance type festival and having the crowd really be into what they were doing. Yeah,
I mean, I really enjoyed their stuff. I thought the vocalist was very talented, and the melodies she was singing were pretty fresh. They weren't like a straight vocal line. She was doing a lot of, I think, without showing off too much, she was doing a lot of variations and just really playing with the notes, and I really enjoyed that. They also had an electric violinist that came out for some tunes, and that was cool.
And what I found pretty cool, pretty neat, is that CMB is different than they are on their studio albums. Like going to their studio after hearing them live, it was the opposite of usual, because usually when I hear like the studio thing, it repairs all the shortcomings of the live act, where like things are more structured, things are tighter, the balance is right. Whereas their live act is just is like a different kind of thing, and it just is. Maybe it's reactive to both. It's way more reactive to the other performers, and maybe a bit reactive to the crowd as well. Because it was really cool, and I wasn't disappointed when I searched out their studio stuff. But I was like, oh, that's neat, because it's a different experience to listen to the studio stuff than their live show. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I heard some of it. I haven't really had a chance to process it, but I heard the record, I think, all the way through, and I recognize some of the songs, and they do have a different feel, but the things I liked about them is still there, which is great.
Yeah. No, they were cool. I think I'm grateful that Kanga, who looks just like Aubrey Plaza to me, but...
Is that the woman from Legion? Or who are you talking about?
Aubrey Plaza was maybe on The Office, and she's in some like zany comedies. She's usually kind of a comedic / sinister actress, but she's weird, but she looks a lot like Kanga. Anyhow,
I'll check it out.
I am grateful that she took the trek and did a one-off performance, but I'm going to say that CMB was actually my favorite act of this date. It was really good.
Yeah, I think they stole the show to a degree. And then Kanga came on, and it was cool to see her. I'm kind of saving my criticism of the sound for the end, but her performance was all right. I wasn't blown away.
I think it was a modified show. Like, I think so. What we got was Kanga, and she did vocals over a backing track.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be too critical, because when you are coming from the West Coast to do one show, you're not bringing a whole band. You're not like bringing a ton of gear. You're like, how can I optimize this for? Maybe I'm being like too generous, which is a possibility, but it was a certain version of her show that was a little sparse, I guess.
Sparse?
Yeah, I think there's kind of synonyms, but like a little thin in some ways.
Okay.
Because it was just her trying to like fill the stage. And for one person to fill the stage with energy is a hard thing, especially if she's not used to doing that all on her own. So, just what is she going to do to bring that energy to the stage? And I don't know. I think it's a real challenge, and I'm not going to be super critical. I think that her with an actual band is probably an entirely different sort of happening.
Do you know if she does usually perform with more of a band, or?
I have no idea.
Okay. So maybe what we saw is all she does. I'm not sure. But, I mean, my impression was that she was certainly put a lot of energy into the physical performance, and she was definitely had a presence on stage, but I didn't feel the same energy or attention going into the vocal performance. It came off, and the sound didn't help, but the vocal performance, I just didn't feel it. And maybe that's just her style. She has a very straight singing style. She doesn't shout. She doesn't, she just sings, and most of it's in a bit of a lower register. So maybe she can't really put a lot of power behind that and stay on key. That could be part of it. But she was emoting with her body rather than the vocal performance, and I wish those two things had been reversed a little bit. But as far as the venue itself, it was a pretty good venue. They had, I think it was carpeted, but they had a dance floor,
section,
a solid floor in front of the stage, which was nice. And they had, a very decent PA, a very good soundboard. They had a dedicated sound man there. But he didn't seem to do much. I think he could have done more. And I think there were some issues. The first couple bands, you can't really expect to come off perfect because there's certain variables when you're running sound that you can't do much about. If you tune the sound to sound good in an empty room, once people start filling in,
that's the thing.
It totally changes. So before the full crowd is there, sometimes things are going to be a little hairy. And plus the earlier bands, the first bands on the ticket probably didn't have as extensive a setup or sound check. So, but I think the first couple bands did sound okay. And where I really started hearing some issues was when CMB played. And I think for most of their set, there was way too much bass happening, and it really overwhelmed some things. There were times when you couldn't hear the electric violin, which you would think would be something you'd really want to highlight, especially because the violinist wasn't on stage in the beginning. They brought her in partway through the set, and it was really something to, they should have stood out. They did kind of get it together at the end. I don't know if he made any adjustments, but that problem seemed to get better as the set went on, and certainly at the end, you could really hear the violinist. The bass wasn't as overwhelming, and that worked out. But with Kanga, I think there was a problem because it was just her backing tracks, which sounded great. They came through great. And she was just singing into an SM58, which is your basic, the microphone you see everyone always use. It's the industry standard.
I own one.
Right. But that mic can be a little, bassy isn't the right word, but the higher frequencies don't always come through.
Right. There's a bit of muddying, kind of.
It can have almost a muffled, not muffled, but maybe muffled is a good word, a bit of a muffled sound. And
it's got its own EQ, for sure.
And with certain people's voices, that might not be a factor. With hers, it seemed to really muddy up the waters. Like the backing tracks sounded nice and clear, and her vocals sounded not great at all. And as a sound engineer, with the kind of equipment they had, he could have easily EQ'd, he could have brought up some of the higher frequencies. He could have tried to find the problematic frequencies and turn them down a little bit. But he just kind of sat there and he was satisfied with, that the levels were right. Now, maybe that's just his style. Maybe that's all they paid him for. I don't know what the story was, but he could have definitely improved that situation. It wasn't a deal breaker, but it just was something that definitely was not optimal.
Yeah, I was going to talk about what makes a good venue versus a not as good venue. I mean, I'm feeling optimistic actually. I'm not gonna crap on any venue because they're doing what they do for, I think, good intention. but it's like the once ballroom, if everyone there had been really into what they were doing, it would have turned out a little different. And I think that the sound guy would have had a feel for the music, like the feel of the music, and would have made some nuanced adjustments during the set that would have really made it outstanding. Because technically they had everything at their disposal. They had a great mixer, they had a great PA, they had, a good room.
They had the tools.
Yeah, it just, for some reason, it didn't, they couldn't crack a B+ for execution. It wasn't, and I'm not saying it was bad.
No, it wasn't bad. I'm just
saying, like, you just get that there's like a magic level where the sound guy is into the music and the venue loves the music and they have the right tech to support it, and the performers have really put the effort into getting tight on their set, and like it just, when all of it comes together, it's a fucking magical performance. It just doesn't happen every time.
Yeah, and it's to hear you really, elucidate those points. It really brings to mind that we typically have the opposite issue. We have a sound man who's very engaged, very into the genre, knows what people are supposed to sound like, and does his best within the technical limitations of our venue's maybe not so optimal sound system and capabilities.
Yeah.
And natural acoustics, which are not great. This was a much better space, much better equipment, but the sound man seemed experienced, but he just wasn't as engaged as he could have been.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, it's a gamble. I mean, if you out there in the listening audience are trying to put something on, just go in with the best intention and get as many people involved who are really into what you're doing, because it makes a difference. If the venue is into what you're doing and the engineers are into what you're doing and you're into it, your product's going to be good. Maybe.
Well,
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The engagement, as long as people have the fundamental skills,
yeah,
the engagement is going to bring it to that next level. If you get people who are actually invested in what they're there to do. So,
and I did want to give a shout out. A little like we didn't go to this show for them, but in the upstairs they had a visiting band from Iceland. Berndsen?
I didn't catch the name.
Berndsen. Berndsen? And I guess it's Icelandic pop right now, and they were high energy.
Oh yeah.
But it was high energy. It was the high energy of seeing a band in a dive bar and the singer is 2 feet away from you and you can smell his breath and they're loving what they're doing and the crowd is loving what they're doing. And even if you're a member of the crowd who don't have any familiarity with what they are or what, any of their music, it's still a good time because everybody is just like they're having fun. And so shout out to them in the upstairs. We didn't come for you, Berndsen, but we are glad you were there.
Yeah, I didn't catch I think you were there for more of their set than I was, but
yeah.
What I heard was interesting. It was like a retro 80s kind of drum machine sound with some almost not as robotic as Devo can be, with a little more free-spirited stuff on top of that. It was an interesting sound, It sounded pretty cool from where I was.
I think they had a live drummer, though.
Was that a live drummer?
Yeah.
There was something very retro 80s about it.
Oh, yeah.
Though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But I will, okay. All right. I tried to be super optimistic, super like, take this as if for some reason management of the once ballroom is listening, take this as constructive criticism. Your bar sucked. the bar was bad
Upstairs or downstairs?
everywhere.
Oh, yeah?
It was just a really poorly appointed bar. They didn't have any. It was just really difficult to get a drink that you wanted.
Limited menu?
Yeah, they had a few things, and it was almost like a real afterthought. And I'm only going to touch the surface of how ridiculous the Boston area is for the timing, where like everything shuts down at 1. I think legally everything has to be closed by 2. It's like there's all sorts of pretty ridiculous draconian rules about, heaven forbid people stay up past their bedtime being entertained, dancing. What is this, fucking Footloose? What's going to happen? They're out dancing. Just come on, back the fuck up.
Yeah. Well, for anyone who might not be familiar in New York, at least this part of New York, I think all of New York, we can stay out. The venues stay open until 4, which is pretty damn good. And at some crazy times, I don't know, New Year's Eve or maybe when the time changes, they'll just stay open till whenever.
They just go for
once
it.
in a while. Yeah,
that's cool.
If you get a club that doesn't care.
Yeah.
So
I think the only place that has a superior... I'm trying to think localities that have a superior club schedule. I think Miami, they have a stipulation where they don't have to close, but they have to not serve alcohol for at least 1 hour of the day. And
nice. And why? Like, why even that rule?
It's like there's always this thing where like there's some Puritan in like pilgrim garb that has to be appeased.
Yeah.
And so like I think I've heard stories of bars in Miami where like at 5:00 the bar closes and they have a pancake buffet. And then at the end of the pancake buffet, it just starts up again. So they get this mix of super drunk people who have been drinking all night. And then they get like early birds who are starting their party day with a good pancake breakfast.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound bad because pancakes are pretty good.
That sounds great. That's some good drunk food right there.
Oh, yeah. That's really what you need. That'll bring you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gluten-free option, I hope.
Yeah, you got to hope for it because there's sensitivities out there. The other thing that, I will say it kind of sucked was that there was like zero pretense of an encore. It was the set ended, the lights, bam, came on. Bam, that's it. It's done.
That was probably arranged ahead of time and,
I don't know.
Maybe she's just not set up for that.
Having been involved, I think that there's a lot less that's prearranged than you'd think, and that the promoter is kind of surprised as well that there is no encore. They're like, "Fuck, what? Seriously? Okay, I guess that's it. I guess we leave now."
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. If I was an artist, that would definitely be something I negotiated ahead of time. If I was the headliner,
You and I do things differently. Like, I think there's to myself, there's definitely a neurotic element where I don't like stress a whole lot, and I like to plan things, I think, in advance. So at the time of execution, I can think as little as possible.
Yeah.
That's how I'm comfortable. It's a little butt clenchy, but it's just how I roll. And so, like, being able to tell, the promoter, this is the set, there will not be an encore.
Right.
That's that. They did have a cool projector.
Yeah, the projector was good.
Was nice.
It was banging. And they did some good images up there. Looked good. Yeah. I have to say, the best venue I've been to recently that is still in kind of a club context. It's a bigger club context, but I think Fete Music Hall in Providence, Rhode Island, was very impressive. Their stage setup is really good. They have a balcony. It was not, I mean, the Fuse Box, our local venue, you can't say it's falling apart, but it looks like it could be falling apart. It's not in the best shape. I think Once Ballroom in Boston or Cambridge, is that where
Somerville.
It was? Somerville, excuse me. In Somerville, looked a little aged, but it was fine. You know, no big issues. The upstairs bar actually looked a little more lived in than the ballroom itself.
Yeah.
But Fat Music Hall, it's all black, so you can't really see, but it didn't seem as dingy, as dark and dirty as the Fuse Box. So it had this kind of feeling that it was newer and more well maintained. And it was just interesting. The sound was really good. Like I said, the stage was very well set up, and it was a cool spot.
It sounds like it's a venue that is into what they're doing.
Yeah, like I couldn't tell how much exactly, because I saw Stabbing Westward there. I spoke about this in a previous episode. But with a band of that stature, I mean, you know, they definitely got the sound right, and it was. I'm sure there was care and attention put on that show, because I imagine that was a fairly big show for them, and it came off really well. So I can't speak to their normal whatever they do there. I don't even know if they normally have a club night or if it's just a concert venue, but it looks very conducive to both roles.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Very nice place.
Very cool. So do you have something you'd like to move on to post the Kanga Roundup? Kangaroo? Yeah, the Kanga Roundup. Yeah.
You mean as far as...
It's just topics.
Oh, topics. Well, I wanted to see if I could get more out of you in regards to your public access show.
Oh, jeez.
You've given us some highlights, but what was it all about? What was the setup? How did you get into it? What were some of the typical, less amazing things that happened?
Well, okay, so really, I'm going to paint like as honest a picture as I can, which is I can really not give a fuck sometimes. And like I was of the people who were doing it, even though I was like a big personality of the show, I was like the least prep and the least like I had creative input. I would get like these creative, strange, artistic influence on the show, but the other people who ran the show, Jim and Fangaboo, they actually got music video servicing from all these independent labels, and they were on the music video tracking where, you know, they would be reporting what videos they were playing so that it would count towards their metrics. They would do like long editing sessions, which is nothing like it is now, because now you can edit with a personal computer and pretty straightforward software, whereas back then it was you'd have to go to the public access studio and do things in their editing suite, which was basically like using magnetic media, and it would like, you'd have to like put your cue points in and it would kind of start rolling the tape in a certain way so that it was up to speed at the time you wanted to. It was just really complex and really like cumbersome, and they put in just so much effort to the show. I was more like I had way more fun influence, which is I would come up with like both hosting and like just odd things, like pretenses for a show. Like there was one where I was the devil and my co-host Jim was naked.
It sounds amazing.
It was the devil and naked episode, and he just was in a towel. He had like a bath towel on, and he had his hair up in a bath towel, and that was it. And we introduced the videos and talked about stuff, and it was, you know, in some ways, we like had this like kind of arrogant snicker at Wayne's World when it came out, because like Wayne's World was a lot of like, it could have been inspired by having seen our show.
You talking about the sketch or the film?
I guess more the sketch than the film, but both. Like
okay.
the film, it had like this convoluted thing about actually getting picked up and getting big, whatever. But the whole pretense of like a basement, zero budget production that really was, the entertainment factor came strictly because the people who were doing it were amusing. That's really like it. But then it got big enough that we had like some pretty cool interviews with bands. Information Society I mentioned was one, and we got them to do this B-roll. B-roll is just where you get some footage of stuff that you plan to splice and use later. So we had them making weird faces at the camera, and they were like, "We're pretty sure you do this show just to get famous people to do stupid shit." And we're like, "It's a perk."
Nice.
You know? Hey.
Well, let's set the stage a little bit. So you're talking mid-90s, 94, 95?
No, it pretty much, the heyday of it was early 90s.
Well, when did you start? Did you start this whole thing, or did you come into it?
No, well, I was starting at the ground level with this, and it was like, I'd say 1990, maybe 89.
Okay.
Because there used to be these rules back when cable companies were moving into an area. When they gave a shit, they would have to like try to outbid rival like cable companies, because once you got a cable franchise, it was fucking huge. Like, it was great. So they would be like, "Look, we're going to come in. We're going to make this studio for local origination." See, they didn't call it public access. They called it local origination. So, we'll give you this studio, and, you go ahead and, you can use our equipment. You can make your own material. We can cover your local events, things like that. And so, in our case, it was Continental Cablevision downstate, and they had a pretty modest studio, and we would use their cameras. We'd go in and film. Sometimes we would film on locations, whatever. And once they were filmed, there was something common with all of these cable local origination channels, which is they very rarely actually had enough content to run 24/7. And so the loophole, what this provided was, if we were willing to mail out copies, we could get our show on in lots of different markets. So we were mailing our copies to, we were on in New York City, in Westchester, in Boston, in these major sort of Northeast metropolitan areas. And it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So what was the name of the show, and how long was it?
It was called My Part of the Thing. And I think it was an hour. Maybe it was a half hour.
Did you do them weekly or more often, less often?
Not more often. I think it was weekly, and I'm going to say it was not weekly because of the sheer effort that went into like actually editing. That like I did not pull my weight because I never really learned the intricacies of the shitty editing system. And so when I would go in, it would be to assist creatively with the edits, but I wouldn't, it's not like, okay, I'll take this one, I'll go in. So like, it was a show I'm super embarrassed, whatever. I still can't watch the show.
Can other people watch the show?
Yeah, the show's funny. Like it's got some really hilarious like references. Like I actually had a recent reference. I was talking with someone about growing up downstate. There was WPIX and it was Channel 11. I don't know, pre-WB. It's what became the WB at some point, but WPIX, a Metro New York station, they would do this thing where on Saturdays kids could call in and play this interactive game, which was essentially like playing this Atari game. And when the kid on the phone would say "Pix," the dude in the studio would press the fire button. And it like inevitably, it was like kind of like a weird like targeting asteroids game, but inevitably it would like just break down to the kid being like "Pix, pix, 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 pix." It was just ridiculous, right? And like you could tell when like they had like talked to them beforehand. They're like, "Look, just don't constantly spam me with pics. Don't just say it. Like, try to be targeted, like, and, we'll work it out." But like, it was totally not mechanized. It was totally like a dude who was hitting fire when he heard the kid say pics. But it was ridiculous. So we actually had, for like our anniversary episode or something, we actually did a live episode, and it was like a total like mockery of that. And it was like someone called in and it played this pre-recorded footage that was totally not lining up with what he was doing. And it was just like totally stupid. But
was this by design or just it went wrong?
No. Okay. It was by design because the whole thing, the inspiration for the bit was how stupid this consumable was, this product that this other network was putting out.
So how long were you involved in the show? Did the show end when did it all just end, or did you walk away at some point?
No, it kind of fizzled out. We all like left the area to go to school, and we'd still get together, but less and less frequently. And
so this is when you were in high school? Or?
Yeah, this was a high school into early college thing. And
how many years did you do it?
I'd say 2 or 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know how many episodes you guys did altogether?
No, I have no idea. It's
more than 20, I would assume.
Yeah, I'd say more than 20.
50?
I don't know, man. Like, I can't watch them. Like
this sounds like something that needs to be YouTubed.
Well, it is YouTube. There is a My Part of the Thing MPOTT channel, and I think the episodes are up there, but it's odd because there was like a clause. We actually have a lot of the music videos in our channel. I'm trying to think, who is the artist who had the song "All the People Who Died"?
Oh, I know. I don't know, but I know the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to look it up.
It's somebody who I think passed away fairly recently.
Possibly.
But yeah, I'll see that people are commenting on the video because we're one of the few posters that put that video up there. So like it means something. People go to YouTube to watch it, and they happen upon our channel to see it.
And you had the rights to do
Yeah,
that?
so
Okay.
the way it worked is when we were serviced, we were granted broadcast license for this material, with the stipulation that broadcast license could be revoked at any time if they see fit. But using these releases that we had from the studio, we started the YouTube channel, and we explained that, like, we have releases for everything we're putting up. There is no grounds for a content strike. However, we're completely agreeable if any provider, such as, who is it that recently was looking to do, not Lisa Loeb, but somebody was doing a resurgence, and they wanted us to pull our copies so that their channel was the only source, their like official channel was the only source for it. And they're
Right.
like, yeah, sure. That was part of the deal, is, as long, and they were a little bit condescending about, like, hey, we're not going to come after you or anything, but because she's going to be, like, making a new push, we'd really, could you work with us and make this easy on us? And we just were like, absolutely. We had your initial permission to share this, and so, we absolutely grant you every authority to revoke that permission. Best of luck with your promotion, especially because now we're like not like childish about it. It's just like, okay, sure, whatever.
You're better than getting sued.
Well, there's no law, there's no legal grounds to sue us because they said we could air it.
Yeah, but if they have the right to revoke it and you don't take it down.
Oh yeah, we would. No, but there's no reason. I mean, I guess it's like there's so many possibilities for getting into trouble that are just not in my character. That, like, if somebody granted us license to do something with the caveat of, if for some reason we need you to stop, and I say sure, I'm not gonna like suddenly be a dick and be like, no way, man, free music for the people.
Yeah.
Bro.
Well, that's nice of you.
It was somebody who was recently on the Joe Rogan podcast too. I can't remember.
Oh, Liz Fair.
Yes, it was
Okay.
Liz Fair. Yeah, so Liz Fair has something new going on, and her people really wanted her back catalog isolated to her channel.
So this was an alternative format, or did you play whatever?
Oh, yeah. It was like The Cure, Pop Will Eat Itself, like Ned's Atomic Dustbin, and kids who were like fucking douches to me in high school at the reunion said, like, hey, man, it's weird. We didn't really get, we weren't close in high school, but I got to tell you, I loved your show. Like, there was so much good music that you guys had that has stuck with me. And I was like, wow, you were an asshole in school. I would never have guessed this.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I never went back to my reunions.
I went to one, and you know what stopped me from... I went to the 10, but I didn't go to the 20. And the reason is I could see... At the 10, I had no idea how they had changed. And at the event, they had a pretense of being grown up and matured. Whereas at the 20, I could tell from their Facebook profiles and behaviors that they were the same shitty people they used to be, and would only pretend for like an hour at a time that they were not shitty. So, yeah, there's no need to ever go back.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, do people really have glorious high school career? Is that, I've heard the term before. It doesn't make sense, but
I don't know. I imagine there are people who acquitted themselves well through the high school experience that remained good people, and did something cool with their lives, but I don't know.
it just seems like a petri dish where any of the cultures that are slightly marginal are abused by the majorities.
Well, at least in the times that we came through. Maybe things are slightly different now, but I've probably not.
I don't know. Judging by like the way they react to bullying, like the whole like bullying topic is still completely mishandled, where they like have these promotions of like don't walk out, walk along, and it's like jocks are enlisted, like the culturally elite are enlisted to walk alongside the culturally marginalized as like pets for a day, and it's incredibly like distasteful.
Yeah.
And it does not heal the rift between these cultures. It's more like you're a fucking asshole and you think that I'm like somehow like deformed, and this is you trying to make a kind gesture to the deformed wretch when what the fuck.
Yeah, I can't see anything like that having a lasting impact. And if the only motivation for, trying to get, quote unquote, the cool kids to hang out with the freaks is so the freaks don't shoot up the place, that's not coming from a place of acceptance and love.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, fuck you.
I mean, so I'm going to lay super crazy, right? This is super crazy talk right now. I think when I was a young, I was a young person who had peculiar interests in high school, and what didn't make me dangerous or radicalized is that I was fully aware that there was better times ahead of high school, like that these were not the best days of my life, that I was in a very small pond, and there was 120 kids in my graduating class. That's like not a whole lot of people, and it's the same people you've been with for like the whole K through 12 experience. So like there's not a whole lot of room for like recreating yourself or growing as a person. So, if I had had less favorable prospects coming out of school, yeah, I might have shot people. I have no idea how things would have been different if I felt like that was as good as it gets and everything's downhill from here, because it was shitty. But,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I did academically, I had no problems in high school. I never had to try too hard.
Yeah.
I was in the brainy class, and that worked for me, but it was not an easy time in any other aspect of, going through that experience. And I started to get some acceptance later on, but I was a pretty big dork and got picked on quite a bit. And I can't remember how. I think I had to imagine that after high school would be very different. And I think it was hard to visualize that, but I must have known it to a certain extent. And I can't say that helped me get through it, but ugh.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Yeah.
But it comes back, it's like this grander cultural mission that I have. And this cultural mission that I try to advocate as often as possible is that creativity is not a liability. When somebody seems like a creative person, that shouldn't be threatening. You shouldn't like disdain them. If somebody like has a tattoo or has colored hair, that doesn't mean that like it's offensive for them to work alongside you. It just does. It drives me crazy that somebody who has creative expression is somehow like viewed as irresponsible and not reliable, which is, I don't know. It's a weird culture we're in, man.
It's true sometimes. There is that type of artist that...
There's that kind of person.
Yeah.
Like how many, like just, I don't know that statistically it happens more often in artists than in people in general, that people are fuck-ups. Like
True.
It happens. Like you don't have to be creative to be like lazy.
Right. Right.
It happens.
There are lazy creative types and very productive creative types, and more intellectual creatives versus less intellectual creatives, and every variation. I remember, oh man, senior English class or something, I wrote some essay that I can't remember if it was a different piece or if I used the same piece. I think it was a piece I wrote for English class. I think it was a poem. And I remember the teacher saying, basically, I can't remember his words. I wish I could. Man, that guy was an ass. But, wife had cancer. Very sad. But he was still an asshole.
That's true. Sometimes bad things happen to bad people.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he was a bad person, but
probably
not the best English teacher for me anyway. I wrote this piece, and he basically said, wow, to me, this really says you need help. And I was like, wow, fuck you. And then I went to college, and that was a piece I used on my application. I can't remember exactly how it worked, but the admissions person was like, wow, this is really cool. You're very creative. You should go check out the QE2 downtown. I think you'd fit in there, blah, blah, blah. Just a totally different level of understanding and acceptance of, and I should say this is before all the school shooting stuff. God knows what would happen today if you're expressing your morose feelings in fucking English class and they think you're a threat or something. I don't know. But, just a total different mentality between fucking small town high school and an actual college with, creative people who understand creative people. I don't know. High school is just the worst.
It's sort of sewage. It's a sewage tunnel that everyone must navigate, I suppose.
It's a gauntlet, yeah.
I don't know. Do people actually, I don't know. Maybe some people actually come out of high school saying, wow, that was awesome.
There must be some. I mean, I don't think I know any.
Crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just not that type.
Yeah. Real life's kind of cool.
Yeah, real life is, I think, a lot better.
When you find that, you can take agency, and if there's something you want to do, you can do it. That's cool. I feel like the world is full of so many people who don't try to do stuff that you just have to be moderately persistent, and you can do cool shit.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And you have to try before you get good at doing it.
Yeah.
But you're never going to be good at doing it if you don't start doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So find the time, it sucks having to work, but find the time, find the energy, even if it's only infrequent, do that thing you want to do,
Yeah.
The more you try, the better you're going to get at it.
You have to keep a good focus for what you want out of life. And I think life is about growth. And if you're not, if you just do the same thing always, that's more like prison than life. But that actually perfectly segues into the next thing I was going to talk about. If I may. Or do you have something? You have
I was
going
to go get another drink.
All right, drink break.
Drink break.
Drinks part 2. What you got there?
So I made myself one of my favorite things in life. It's basically a mudslide, not with any ice happening, but Irish cream. Little bit of chocolate-infused vodka.
Okay.
And some Kahlua.
That's lovely.
So it's very sweet. It's all alcohol, and it's creamy.
Nice.
I like it.
No, that's a winner right there.
Put that in a blender with some ice cream cake.
Oh, wow.
It's fabulous.
That sounds fantastic.
Next birthday,
Hell yeah.
It's the way to go.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't done that in years, but it was damn good the one time
wonderful.
I tried it. There's a recipe.
Yeah. Woo.
Has to be the kind with the nice, chocolate crunchies in it.
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah. Those crunchies were the jam.
They make it.
So I'm going to give you a pro tip.
Okay.
This is like super, super local pro tip first.
Okay.
Have you had the Only 8 ice cream that Jim's Tasty Freeze has?
Only 8?
Yeah, it's called Only 8. I think I'm on the fence whether it's only 8 because there's only 8 ingredients or only 8 because there's only 8 calories per serving. But
8 calories seems very light.
it is very light. It tastes great. But it's definitely a science food. It's like there's carrageenan and like other things in it that end up making an ice cream that's extremely low sugar and low carb.
It's a little scary.
It's a little scary, but hey, just don't go crazy on it and don't have like a pint a day and, there you go.
I have not had it, but I did go there this season a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And I just had some of their regular soft serve. And there's definitely some soft serve you can get that is a little fake, and you get that sort of chemical aftertaste in your mouth. It's just low quality, cheap shit, whatever. I don't know. Their stuff tasted really good. It didn't have that quality. It seemed more natural. At least they're regular. So
Jim's Tasty Freeze is good. And did you know they have something that's a really unique and rare item, which is their Dole Whip?
I've heard of it.
I have never actually gotten it, but from what I hear, Dole Whip is a very, very, very rare commodity outside of Florida. Like, it's like 2 or 3 places outside of Florida actually have it. So it's like any guests who we have come up who have been like, who are like Disney heads, I guess, Disney fanatics, they lose their mind when they see that they can get Dole Whip here because it's like an upside down rainbow. It's not supposed to happen like this. It's amazing.
Double rainbow.
Yes. So, they have that, but my thing that I've come to really, really like is you get soft serve ice cream in a dish, and you have to bring your own. You don't use sprinkles. You don't use shredded coconut. You use cacao nibs, which is like the actual unprocessed fruit that becomes chocolate before it gets processed. So it's like they're crunchy. They have almost like a bitter cherryness to them. But they, like, when they combine with the sweetness of the ice cream, they sort of have like this kind of chocolate pop to them. It's really good. Like, it's the way to go. And you don't have to get the $24 a pound cacao nibs. You could go with like the $12. That's fine. It's gonna be fine.
Interesting. We should have a party
next time. I think we need to have an ice cream social. It's time.
That, as long as it's not a crazy big social.
I don't know. Crazy big's pretty good.
Maybe I should have a record release ice cream party.
There you go. That's the jam. Yes, absolutely. I'll bring the cacao nib.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to another local ice cream place, Troy, New York, the Dutch Udder.
Oh, they're really good.
And that's not a joke for anyone who's not familiar. The place is called the Dutch Udder, and they have really, really good stuff.
What movie was that a reference to? I'm trying to remember. In the movie, it was a Dutch rudder.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous. It was awesome.
It wasn't Zach and Miri, was it?
No.
But anyhow, remember.
Yeah, it was pretty hilarious in that movie, and for someone to make an ice cream shop based on that.
I don't know if it's based on that. It might be coincidence.
Maybe it was Zach and Miri. It might have been.
I'm not sure.
Anyhow, yeah, their ice cream is fantastic. They have crazy flavors, and I, typically will go in and like they have ice cream flights where you can get like 7 scoops of ice cream.
It's awesome
to find out what your flavor that you like is.
Yeah. And the stuff I don't know how they infuse their flavors, but they're really well done. They really get the essence. It's not overpowering. They get the sweetness to flavor balance just right. I'm a big fan.
Troy is a great place to eat now. When things are open.
Okay.
Like a lot of places, they're like, oh, it's 4:30, we're closing. And you're just like, seriously?
Well, they do have pretty much everything in downtown Troy, Indian, Greek, anything you could want. I think they have. Schenectady, for instance, is missing a few things. Albany pretty much has everything.
Yeah.
Vietnamese, fucking everything.
Yeah.
But, Troy's another one of those places. And they have a lot of, like, I don't know if gourmet is the right word, but a lot of, like, the shop. Just not overly done, but just really well put together. Not basic. It's a step above basic food, but how would you describe it? I don't know.
I would say that it is elevated cuisine in a comfortable creative space. Like the food at the shop's food, and I have to say I can't speak entirely to their menu because I always just get a ton of appetizers because their appetizers are just fantastic. But I will say their food is unbelievably great. Like, it's really fantastic every time I've been there. And when people come to visit from out of the area, that's one of the places I like to take people to, like, so that they're like, wow, upstate New York is not bullshit. This is amazing.
We have some great spots around here. This is it's certainly grown, by leaps and bounds from when I first got here, 20-some years ago.
It's interesting. Yes, but at the same time, do you remember when you first came to Albany walking Central Avenue?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
there was a certain schizophrenic guy with a guitar who thought he was in a different city who would ask you for directions or something, and that would fucking freak me out every time. Every time I was walking down to the comic book shop or the record store, downtown. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I feel like city management has not done Central Avenue any favors. And it's...
In what way?
I feel like Central right now is kind of like a crappy, rotten husk of what it used to be.
A little bit. Certainly.
You used to have Blue Note, World's Record, and...
Record Shack.
Yeah. Is that the one that... Yeah.
One block up. The next block up from where the fuse box is.
Yeah. So, yeah, like... And...
Oh, there was Rhino Records was up at Westgate Plaza.
Right, yeah. And
I got a great Spinal Tap picture disc there.
There used to be Fantagraphics that was on...
Fantaco, yeah.
Fantaco that was on Central.
Yeah.
And then Lark Street had a comic book shop.
Yes.
And there was Earthworld.
Yes.
And...
Let me talk about Fanaco for a minute.
Okay, bring it.
Because Fanaco... they actually had a publishing company, and they had the license to, I think, Night of the Living Dead before zombies really blew up. This was, mid-90s. They were printing their own comics, and I found out only years later, Fanaco was also, I think, deeply involved, if not the same owner, of Screamin' Products Vinyl. Vinyl models. They had real licenses. I think they had Star Trek, they had Hellraiser, they had Army of Darkness, and they put out. I mean, you can still find them today if you look on eBay. Really well sculpted vinyl models.
You know, we actually know. You know Night of Living Dead or Return of Living Dead's Tarman?
Yeah. Oh, fucking great effect.
We know the artist who did the vinyl reproduction.
Was that Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat. But yeah, so I just feel like culturally Albany doesn't invest culturally. Everything is like catered to. The food scene is coming up in Albany and the surrounding area because you have these politicians who come in and it caters to them. They want a great wine and dine place to go, to be taken out to, or to take someone out to. And that's where the focus is. The actual culture kind of falls by the wayside. So, like, you know, I like if you walk down Central Avenue, there's you don't like when I first came up here, it was like walking down the street. There were a ton of shops that I would go into. Not the case now. Like
even the Army Navy store is closed now, right?
Is it closed? That was like a holdout that the Army Navy store was around for a really long time.
I could be wrong, but they might have changed hands or something.
I'm pretty sure that they did, but you know, it's like there's a drought of neat shit. Plenty of places to eat, but as far as like neat shit goes, not so much.
There was I mean, certainly I don't know how important this was culturally, but there was a great leather shop there.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it right now. Dan Savage?
Yeah.
Is that the proprietor?
I had talked to him, and I talked to him at one point, and he said that what actually was the lion's share of his business was that he did all of the leather outfitting for the equestrian police.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's like, that was how he stayed in business, was like, yeah, he made all the horse stuff for the cops.
Wow. I know he did a lot of custom work, and I don't know, as a younger person, I was very impressed with his shop. Certainly coming from a small town, there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
Any that I had seen, you know. And, you know, he was there for a long time, but, you know, that closed up quite a few years ago now. Yeah, it's changed a lot down there, I would have to say. It's not quite as vibrant. I feel like that's another place where Troy kind of has an advantage these days.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, but Troy has such limited hours. It's like if Albany doesn't want people to come to school in this area and then leave, they really have to support there being culture here. Like, it comes back to creativity is not a liability, because people don't stay where there's like nothing enriching in their life. They move down to the city. They move to another state.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, one staple that's still there and still kicking ass is Arlene's Art Supplies on Fuller Road. I was in there a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, and I was impressed that they still were carrying a great selection of stuff. Prices aren't ridiculous. You know, you might be able to get a better deal online, but you could just go there and get stuff and, you know, go home.
Yeah, I don't even think about it being like a legacy heritage kind of place, but yeah, it's been there for 20 something years and then some.
Easily 25 years, yeah.
And you know, I think they get the repeat business of every art class is given like a dossier of what they need to get, and they say just go to Arlene's and hand them this sheet.
Pretty much.
And they do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely better to do that than to just go with an Amazon wish list or something. Like, you'll save a couple bucks, but you really can't beat the convenience of, I need this right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
The Orleans is cool.
I was impressed, and I feel like they've even expanded at some point. They're bigger than they used to be back in the day. And
they hire artists.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like everybody who is there knows what they're talking about because they actually use the stuff they're selling. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it is cool. It's definitely neat. So yeah, I mean, all the Capital Region is not a waste of time. There is a fighting culture that wants to take root.
So speaking of culture and art, let's talk about the scene for a minute. Our scene, and I'm not sure if it's particular to this area or the kind of people we attract. I'm not sure if we just have more creative spirits, maybe. But our goth-industrial scene is very expressive, very into dressing up, very into cosplay. If there's a theme, even if there isn't an overt theme,
they make a theme.
We get a lot of people, dressing to this thing they're imagining is from the title of the event, or, you know, they really want to express themselves in that way. Is that something you saw ever in the past or in a different area? Certainly when I went out to New York or Boston in the past, I never saw that kind of thing going on.
So I've been to a couple theme nights in Manhattan. Like the guy who was the manager of Mindless Self-Indulgence was actually, from here. This guy, James Gallus. And he moved down to the city and had a night called Click and Drag that was cyberpunk and drag, but
interesting.
It was not like you could do one, the other, or both. And
was this recently or
no? This was years
past.
This is like a decade ago.
Okay.
But it was cool. It was expressive, but it wasn't like it didn't have that energy of people viewed it as a blank canvas where they were gonna add their artistic statement. And I think that's really a great thing. That's really a neat thing that is pretty unique in what I see around here.
Yeah, it seems to have blossomed only in this more recent era. Certainly in the past in this area, that wasn't the norm, but it's almost the norm these days to really go for it. As far as, people are it almost seems like people are just looking for an excuse to do something like that. They want that theme every month, it seems.
It's something when I was management involved, it was really important to me that there was an air of acceptance, and it's something that people are really starved for. And this notion that they could, make an outfit, and if it came out awesome, people would be like, oh, that outfit is awesome. And if it didn't come out awesome, nobody's going to be like, what are you supposed to be? It's, if they like it, then that's good enough. And people will have a good time next to you and not have any disparaging comments to say, mostly.
Right. And it doesn't matter if you don't dress up. No one's going to criticize you not for, participating. But I mean, you guys really came up with some great themes in the past. One of them that sticks out in my mind was the Villain's Ball. That was a blast because you can just be your. I think I did a Deadstroke thing, and people were doing Disney villains. People were doing.
Yeah, I kind of remember an Ursula.
Yeah, I think there was an Ursula. Yeah. There was certainly some Harley Quinn action.
Yep.
Just fun stuff, and some people want to do that like every month. Other people really wait for the perfect, the perfect theme to really go for it. Certainly Halloween events are always fun in that respect.
That when you have an event that runs on the first Friday of the month, Halloween is a curse because Halloween can never fall on the first Friday of the month.
Oh, really?
It can't. It's the 31st.
Oh, duh, yeah.
So, there are times where you get pretty close. The best you can do is if Halloween is on a Thursday.
Okay.
So that the following day, your event goes off. Then that's the best it gets. Otherwise, Halloween was last week, and it's awkward.
Yeah.
But
I think I had that conversation on the street, actually, because our venue is located in somewhat of a urban area, I would say. It's downtown. There's a bigger black population down there. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you're walking to the club dressed up as I was, as Green Arrow, you get some questions from the locals sometimes. So, yeah. It was fun, though. It was interesting explaining, oh, yeah, well, we're doing a thing, It's like, I'm not just dressed like this for no reason. Which is kind of what they wanted to know.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Sometimes, I get defensive. I don't like people feeling like somebody's looking creative, let's mess with them. Mm-hmm. But I try not to be like defensive about people who are curious, because a curious person could be the person who's looking for that outlet themselves. Maybe.
I have to say, I've never seen anyone be rude or judgmental on the street. If anyone has, it's really been white people, to be honest. Like, those are the douches.
The only time I've ever been messed with was not white people and not black people. And I wasn't being messed with because of their ethnicity. They were just douches.
Was it in this area?
Yeah. I went to a Halloween thing at the Fuse Box, and it was on Halloween. And these dudes were, had shit to say to me and the lady I was with, and were being, really, they were drunk, they were aggressive, they were just horrible. And so, nothing came of it, nothing happened, but I don't know. I don't think that there's a racial profile for being an asshole. I think it happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. I try. It brings me, it's a tangent, but it brings me to this question of what kind of rude behavior is only rude because I don't understand culturally the context? Because I've found that I've noticed some cultures think it's okay to be overtly, excessively flattering to women on the street.
That's a tough one.
It's it's not exactly catcalling, but just
Pepe Le Pew.
Oh, you're so beautiful, but being kind of like from my perspective, excessively aggressive to the point where I have this urge to be like, why are you talking to people like that? Like, this is not polite and it's not flattering. Why are you talking to her like that?
Yeah.
But it's, I'm also self-conscious. I'm this white dude who's judging someone else's culture. This is not my business. If she doesn't like it, she'll turn around and say, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Why are you talking to me like that?
Yeah.
So like I let it go, but I was just like, I don't know. There's a cultural context for everything, which doesn't always make it okay, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Certain Mediterranean restaurant owners get a little handsy with their customers sometimes.
I remember that. Yeah, that's one of those things where extroverts will unknowingly abuse introverts within an inch of their life. And it's not at all from a place of malice. They just have no idea how harmful they're being when they need to give you a body massage while you're trying to eat.
Yeah.
And like how them pulling up a chair and sitting at your table with you as an introvert is horrible. It's like, I don't want to talk to you at all. I don't want this to be happening, please.
As a restaurant owner, you have to understand that you can't invade somebody's meal. But again, cultural context is different, and they're coming from a different place. So that was tough.
It was tough, and I saw it. I saw the difficulty there at this particular place you're talking about, and all I can think is that they've created a self-selected clientele. They eliminate people who are not into that and cater to people who enjoy the excessively personable, excessively interactive dining experience where they go to a place, they don't know the proprietor, but the proprietor treats them as a dear friend.
Yeah,
and
I can see there being an appeal there.
It's tough because I'm pretty good at toggling. Like every introvert has an extrovert survival mode. They all have it because we'd be dead. We couldn't do it. It's like the extroverts will never get it when you're like, nah, I'm just going back. I'm just going to go back to my hotel room. I'm good. They don't get it. They can't get it because what do you mean? No, we're all going to hang out. No, I'm done. Like, it was a big concern on work trips. Like when I went to San Diego, I was seriously stressed out that they expected me to do work stuff all day with them and then hit the town at night with them. And I was like, no, this is still a 9-to-5 gig. I'm going to find the parts of San Diego that I want to see, and I pretty much can guarantee you have no interest in seeing those parts.
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to do my thing.
There's different social definitions that people have. Like, you don't want to necessarily engage with those guys or people doing whatever the hell they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's hard to understand that sometimes. You're like, hey, we're here as a group. Let's go do this other thing. And no, thank you.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all. Which, when I hung out with them, it's not even that I disliked hanging out with them. It's just they would not want to experience the cultural things that I would be interested in. And I find that, going to a whiskey a whiskey bar and cigar shop to throw money around is not like it just doesn't, it's not enjoyable. It's just something else that I would endure as like personably as possible. Mm-hmm. Because like when you don't want to do something like that, fuck you, right? Like you're the one who did something fucked up because you didn't like, because that seemed like not fun. So like you just got to be like, oh, you know, I'm really jet lagged, I'm super tired, I didn't sleep, the time difference. And then like they leave, and then you actually like go out and walk around the streets for an hour with headphones in, you know?
Yeah.
There you go.
Whatever you want. I mean, it sucks that sometimes you have to tell those, I'll say, lies. Like, you can't just be honest in those situations. Because as you said, those kind of people, they just don't get it. And they'll think you hate them or something. And you just need your own time.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, I think it's like a blood type. It's introverted people can be extroverted for periods and understand extroverted people much better than extroverted people can understand introverts. It's just like it doesn't make sense. What do you mean you don't want to hang out? I'm done with people.
Yeah.
That's it, you know. But all the same, you know, I am kind of a middle of the road person where I have a lot of, I don't want to deal with people, but I also have a lot of like wanting to go hang out. Like I had this weird quirk. I would always want in school, I would pick the quote unquote worst time to get my textbooks. The worst time being when it was crazy busy. And I would go out to experience the absolute soup of people. Like the bookstore is like mobbed. Like it's ridiculous. It's shoulder to shoulder. And that's the time I would pick. And I would be introverted in doing it because I would go on my own and I wouldn't talk to anybody. But I would just be in that like weirdness. The same thing that makes me go to Crossgate sometimes. Like I'm like, ooh, getting close to Christmas. Let's get out there and see what we can survive.
Crossgates is our biggest mall in this area, so it gets insanely crowded at Christmas time.
It's ridiculous.
Ugh. Yeah, I can't deal with that shit. I just want to start stabbing people left and right.
Well, you're not wrong. Yeah, I don't know. It's an odd thing. But that's, you know, I accept that it's odd. And I don't challenge other people for not wanting to do that. But, you know, I think this is the creativity and acceptance episode, maybe. Just like, yeah, people are different. Sometimes they want to be left alone or they want to stab you.
Just gotta pretty much
just gotta accept that,
or both,
or get stabbed.
Yeah. It's tough from probably a more pure introverted point of view where I'm coming from. Even being in the club with similarly minded, not similar, you know.
People are, if introversion is a language, they at least can get by. They may not be fluent, but they at least get by.
Yeah. But even there in a mix of people with similar tastes and sensibilities, sometimes I still can't take it. Sometimes it's still too much going on, too many people, too much. So That's why I've been sort of taking a break lately.
Well, you did a 5-year stint of monthly. I think
Yeah.
there's no need to do anything that doesn't. I think you shouldn't put yourself into any obligation that takes energy out of you. Like, so like you occasionally will do things, but a repeat obligation that's continually taking energy out of you is just not super healthy. So going out when you feel like going out, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm going to be DJing again in September.
Oh, splendid.
And that'll be a nice, I mean, I might go out in July because I think my wife is, the missus is DJing in July. I
Lovely.
believe. So I'll probably be there for that. And then I'll probably wait till September to go again. So I'm just being selective because I'm a little burnt out on all that right now. But, that's how it goes. It kind of comes and goes in these cycles, and I'm on kind of a break right now.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
I think it's super healthy to recognize what your inclination is and just go with it. Like, not like go and try to go out when you know it's not what you feel like doing.
Yeah. I mean, and it's nice to know the scene is healthy enough that I'm not required to be there.
Yeah.
Like, one or two patrons won't make a difference right now.
Yeah.
Because everything's going pretty well. It's still pretty vibrant, which is kind of mind-blowing in a way. Because back in the day, I mean, they always had a night, but it wasn't necessarily ever packed like Ex-Human or Ex-Humanity now gets packed.
Yeah, I think I noticed changes because really the management has like a I'm going to talk. This is completely out of my expertise. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I imagine that the management is like a grow light that has certain spectrums, and the plants are unique to that grow light. So the Ex-Human and the Ex-Humanity management are different enough that it's not a completely the same spectrum. The crowd is shifting a little bit to something a little different. Still wonderful. But it's very interesting to see the shift. I think feel free to edit this out, but I think that it's a little bit more sexualized. Like, people's sexual identity is more important or something. It's hard for me to articulate, but I feel like because that's such a big item for management, like this sexual identity and gender, like the defying of gender confinement and things like that is manifesting in the clients, in the patrons. Whereas I have always been when I was management, every month was like an art opening. There was something, a big creative direction behind it every time. And I wanted artists. I wanted to bring out the artist in the patron. And that's what got cultured.
Cool.
So, like, yeah, it's just, there's different, like, unconscious and conscious direction. But, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, nice enough.
I mean, it's still...
Oh, it's lovely, because they're still incredibly artistic, incredibly creative.
Right. And the theme, the theme of being safe space is, maybe overused and not the right term, but a non-judgmental space where you can be yourself and you can express yourself, continues, I think. So,
No, I actually, I think it's not overused, and it's not. Safe space is something that is. It's a term that is very calculatedly subverted because our current administration is very, very bully friendly. It endorses bullying. That's just like the president of the United States is a bully and an asshole. And that's who was elected. And this validates every bully and every asshole who has previously not wanted to rein their behavior in. So, no, the safe spaces, they like to point out, college students who don't want to hear dissenting views and are, they make them out like a special snowflake when it's really not the case. It's the people who are intolerant are the ones who are the snowflake, who are too fragile to understand, to tolerate a view that is not their own. But I feel emphatic about that. But I think it is a safe space that is made there.
Well, I think that's great. I think if there's an overarching theme, it's that you can come here and be yourself, and I think that's pretty special as far as any area I've been in, anything I've seen. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, it's. Oh, you're gonna make me sentimental. No, it is. It's really worthwhile. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to. I have this balance that.
New Balance?
Not the shoe. No, this balance I'm trying to strike where I like learning new things, and I'm about to endeavor to learn to ride motorcycle. Taking a couple day intensive where at the conclusion I'll take a road test and presumably have a motorcycle license. And I'm speculating about, getting into the world of the motorcycling community, whatever. Not community, because I don't want anything to do with the people of motorcycle culture, really. I will own a motorcycle, perhaps.
There are some nice ones.
Oh, I'm sure. People are, across the board. People are nice and people are jerks, whatever. It doesn't... But I am not, getting...
You're not in it for the social aspects.
I'm not getting a motorcycle to be a part of the community, for sure.
Gotcha.
But what I find myself torn is, do I get a motorcycle and, invest in the protective gear for myself and my fiance and get the motorcycle, pay insurance, have maybe a 4-month window out of the year when it's even a possibility to use the motorcycle.
Yeah.
The remaining 8 months I have to find some kind of storage accommodation. Or do I just buy a fucking kick-ass laptop that I will use every single day?
Yeah.
That's so hard to me because I feel like I'm totally copping out on a new experience if I'm fuck this, laptop time.
Well, you're going to go to the class, right? That's a definite...
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get the structure of this motorcycle class that's available in the area is unparalleled convenience, where you start from not knowing anything about riding a motorcycle, and between the online required course that you take, that's a series of interactive videos, and this 2-day intensive where they actually bring motorcycles for you to use in a parking lot. They bring the protective gear for you to wear, and you get on a motorcycle for the first time at the start of day 1, and at the conclusion of day 2, one of the instructors is actually authorized to be conducting road tests, and you have your license. That's it. You're certified. Your license will come in the mail. Congratulations. So, like, it doesn't get more convenient than that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great way to find out if that's something you really have a passion for. You know, you'll get the experience and you'll know better what your priorities should be after you do that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a guy who I'm taking the course with, and he already knows what motorcycle he's going to get, and he's already been shopping for stuff, and it's next week for me, but I haven't purchased any protective gear, and I haven't, I kind of know what motorcycles I'd like, and what I like in a motorcycle and what I don't care for yet. But, just this thing of like, to think it's very easy to conceptualize spending $4,000 on this new hobby. And that's between getting a motorcycle, getting the protective gear. $4,000 is like real low end. But for $4,000, I could get like such an amazing laptop. There's so much I could break that $4,000 into that has no unknown component. I know I will use it. I know I will love it. It's dicey. How would you go on that?
With your choice or with $4,000?
Well, like if it was you who was like, I'm gonna learn jet piloting or
helicopter.
Helicopter. Oh man, pause for a second. My Monster just is running through me. I think Monster really is like, it's got a real short expiration time when you drink it.
Oh yeah,
it runs through you.
Oh yeah, caffeine will do that.
It'll do it. So yeah, are there any? How do you weigh out new experience versus traditional vices?
I'm probably more of a vices person. I'm probably more of a, when I find something I like, I go deep into it.
Mm-hmm.
The missus is more of an experienced person. So it's a great way to balance me out of, some of the rabbit holes I might fall into. So she wants to do a lot of travel and things that you can't, you have to go somewhere to do something new. And I think that's good. I think there's some areas, some opportunities for growth there for me personally. But honestly, I I tend to pick expensive hobbies to get into. Certainly audio and music can be an endless black hole of money that you can just keep investing in.
True.
And you really have to know when to say when on stuff like that. And I have a couple other interests like that, but that I haven't gone quite as far into. So,
not to like endorse a vice that to an excess, but it seems like audio equipment is one of those things where not unilaterally, there are exceptions, but if you get a really great microphone, for instance, that really holds its value so much better than like so many other purchases. It's like if you're buying car stuff, like if you're investing in a super awesome car, then that depreciates drastically. Whereas you'll still pay a fortune for a mic that was made decades ago. because it's, and it's like, it's not like, if I get it secondhand, it costs half as much. There is no firsthand. You're like hunting for this treasure of audio technology. So it's like, as far as vices go, it seems like it's easy to justify, if you're in it, it's expensive, but if you want out, you can recoup that pretty well because somebody's always looking for that stuff too.
That's true. As long as I think it's like everything else. As long as you invest in the right stuff, some of the classics, I have some things that might be good for resale. I have other things that I'm not sure about. But there are known quantities, and then there are, like trendy things, newer things that you don't know how they're going to hold up.
Yeah.
It's really hard to tell if you're buying a new car today what's going to be a classic in 20 or 30 years. I mean, that's impossible.
That's really tough.
Yeah. But
all marketing tries to make you think that this is the new classic.
Right. But there's no way to tell. I mean, who knows what designs are going to look tasteful in 20 or 30 years. I mean,
it's hard to say what is a modern classic from, the past 20 years when it comes to certain things. I guess that's so Macintosh equipment, Apple equipment, when you look at something that's 20 years old, there's still something iconic about it. If you look at like cars from year 2000, you're like, oh, this is like bullshit, bland, whatever. It's not like people are like, oh, I can't believe you have one of these. This isn't like, barring like ridiculous high-end, like super high-end cars.
Right. Your 2000 Hyundai Sonata is not,
Yeah, it's not a prized. I guess maybe there's some Civics or like Honda had a couple of. I am not in the culture enough to say, but it
maybe
seems
if you
like,
had a certain hot, model with the bigger engine or the sportier features or something. I don't know.
I totally would not mind a 2005 Pontiac Aztek.
Oh God, why? You want to have the ugliest car ever made?
Well, it's a concept car.
It's unique.
It's a concept car that is like really. It's like kind of unlikely that it ever became a commercial product. Like inside it's really large, and there's a tremendous field of view, except kind of exactly where you need it to be, because there's this like bar right across the rear view, so you can't get a great unobstructed view of what's behind you.
Awesome.
The center console is actually a cooler that pops right out.
I heard about that.
Like it's got a lot of things that are really cool about it. I've heard it's not that great to drive, that it's kind of squishy and drives like a van kind of.
Well, yeah, probably.
But yeah, all the same, it's like design-wise, it's at least taking risks and doing interesting things and just seeing what kind of, what can we do in an engineering role for the aesthetics that is out of the box. So I kind of like that, but I really don't know if I would say it's a great car.
Yeah. Well, I respect what you're saying there. I mean, I think the biggest pitfall that all these modern designs fall into is that they're so homogenous because they're all trying to appeal to everybody. We're getting a little more variety now with newer sports cars, some of the retro muscle cars versus the standard models, the Civics and the Corollas and the whatever. Everything is evolving, and there seems to be a little more differentiation these days versus, 10 or 20 years ago. But it's still tough to find something that has the features you want and that you have a passion for the aesthetics for.
Yeah.
Like, cars were never important to me. They're a little more important now. after my father passed away, I got a little more into cars and in design, and I had to find something that I actually liked enough to spend, $20,000, $30,000 on. Cars are not fucking cheap these days.
Right.
If you're gonna buy a car, I think you have to. When you're spending that kind of money, you should get something you have a passion for, that you actually like how it looks. That you're really happy with, that gives you something back. And I just don't think there's that many options these days that actually have an inspired design. I like some of the muscle cars. I like the Tesla Model S. I think is a gorgeous design. Something is just right about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of other ones are still like really bland and fucking. Some of them are just weird looking. Like the new Priuses, I think are especially ugly. I don't know. It's kind of a sad time.
I think some makers are really embracing the car as spaceship motif, which I kind of like, because I feel like it's been like this slowly dragging into futurism, and like everybody wants to make just a very slight revision of the sedan again and again and again, and it like they all look kind of the same.
They all play it safe, and they're all trying to have this broad appeal, but what you get is this homogenized, you can't tell from looking at something if it's a Toyota or if it's a Hyundai or if it's a Honda. They're all fucking blend together.
Yeah.
It's a shame. And if you look at the designs of eras past, I mean, there was some beautiful stuff in the 60s and 70s. Yeah. Some of the 50s cars were gorgeous. You probably couldn't bring you couldn't bring back the big wings. There's regulations, whatever. You can't do that stuff. But Jesus, look at the beautiful stuff they were doing in the 30s with those big waterfall grills and there was some really beautiful stuff that's already out there that they could adapt to a modern platform, but no one seems to be doing that. I don't know why. It seems like a no-brainer. Do something different.
Well, I guess, it's you have to wait. Innovation comes in 30s, so it's like the 70s. And the 70s are like fucking late. It's like, what, 50 years now? And you're seeing some of the 70s aesthetic was not great across the board, but they had some really kick-ass looking cars. And that's finally like, it's been 50 years. Maybe it's like a long generation for the workforce to turn over, where there's a new group of people in there now are like, wow, those were the cool cars. Those were really cool looking, and they, make that stuff now. So I hate to think that it's going to be 2100 before, like, there's another turnover, and there's some, like, people are like, wow, the 30s were, like, an incredibly artful time until, everybody was in soup kitchen lines,
Yeah, that's a point.
But, that's finding that era and bringing what was beautiful out of it is over. I think if you started a car company, I would buy one of your cars.
Well, that's nice. But I imagine the capital investment you need to do that is just so overwhelming. That's why, when these big companies are designing a new car, they almost have no option than to play it safe, because it's such a huge investment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like making a big budget movie. Like you have to appeal to a broad audience, or you're just, you're just destined to die in the marketplace.
That's true. So so that brings back to the question, when you bought your car, did you have this thought process where you're like, I could buy this car, but there's like so much other stuff. I'm not really a car guy. I'm about to become a car guy with this purchase. Or I could just I could put together a whole studio for myself.
Well, I don't think I thought of it in those terms, because obviously you're financing a car, whereas
Yeah.
If you're just buying other things, there isn't a specialized loan for, then you're just, you've got your savings in your credit card and that's it. So in my mind, it wasn't as much of a choice. I needed a new car, and, I was pretty convinced to buy a new car. I wanted a new car. I don't know, I'm still not really into used cars, but my mind is slowly changing on that. I wanted a new car, and I wanted something I actually liked. So I found what I found, and I really liked it, and I still really love it. I look at it. I think it's beautiful. It's great to drive.
It is a beautiful car.
It hasn't let me down. No problems with it. It's been great.
The one thing, everyone will bring up the depreciation in buying a new car as like the hit you have to take.
Right.
But there's I've always thought that there's this assurance that if you want to do it right and actually hold correct maintenance on a machine and see how long it will actually last with you doing the care that you're supposed to do for it, that's the only opportunity you have. You buy even a car that's 2 years old, 3 years old, that person, for them to get it and then let it go so quickly, they couldn't have been playing a long game with it.
Right. It always makes you wonder, why did you sell the car? Was there a problem? Did you take care of it? Did you just trade it in to get another new car? Is that just the kind of person who always wants a new car every couple of years?
Yeah.
You never know. So I think there's a certain attraction to being the sole owner of this thing that you're spending so much money on. Whereas you can't get that usually in a house. You're always buying a used house, or even an apartment that you're moving into. It's very rare to get into a space that no one has ever lived in before. So,
well, some people put out they have the goal of eventually building their own house, or not necessarily themselves, but having a house built to their specification.
Yeah.
Something I've toyed with, because I think there's a house that's built right now can have just such an amazing level of construction compared to a house that was made 100 years ago. My house is 100 years old. And it's great, but it's still 100 years old. You build a house now, you can insulate it well and put in, geothermal and solar and just really do stuff that was technically not possible before. And it's almost like a completely self-sufficient ecosphere, your house, because the heating is so cheap, the cooling is so cheap. If you go real crazy and have a well as well under your house, you're totally good to go. Yeah. But, so there's the appeal, but you don't leave a house. That's almost getting to build your own prison cell. You're there for the long haul when you've done that, I think. Yeah.
I mean, you'd certainly want to be in such I imagine it's a significant investment. You're going to need to stick with that.
Yeah.
Probably obligated to it for quite a while.
I do love the idea that you can look at your car and point at it and say, that was built for me.
Exactly. Yeah, I ordered that car and those particular options in that color, There's something to that, and I don't know. Now I'm kind of wrestling with it, because I know the smart move would be to trade it in and get something new, but I always wanted to hang on to that car, and I don't have a garage or anything. I don't have anywhere to store it. But if I actually got something newer to drive daily and just to keep that thing as, a modern classic or a historical document of whatever, because I love it. I don't have anywhere to put it. I don't know what to do with it.
It's hard.
So I kind of want to keep it, and I don't want to drive it till it dies. I don't want it to die, but I want to have it. So I don't know what the hell I'm doing. we'll see.
It's a nice car.
Smart thing to do is probably trade it in and get something new that's not going to break down. But
if Duncan Trussell were here, he would say something about like understanding the nature of material possessions and that the fulfillment that they bring to us is actually not from them and comes entirely from within us. And so that you don't actually need the object to have that fulfillment and whatever. Sometimes this show is really hard to listen to. Sorry, Duncan. Just don't do another meditation guide, please.
Well, there's something to be said for, I don't know. The first car I ever bought, I was gifted a car from the 80s that held up quite well, that was fine. It was utilitarian, whatever. I didn't have any particular feelings for it. Then the first car I bought was an Asian utilitarian economical car that I don't know if I enjoyed it is the right word, but it got me around. I kind of liked it. It was fine. Was reliable. It filled its role. But there's just something about a piece of machinery that you actually have feelings for, that you like you're just on a different level with it. I don't know.
See, now that's bringing me back around to the motorcycle, where if there's a 2018 bike and the scale for motorcycle pricing is not, I mean, obviously there's a lot less involved in motorcycles, so it shouldn't cost as much as a new, like a brand new car. But a 2018 is like $8,000, and it's the upside is that it's a beautiful machine, and it's a lot smaller than a car. So if I wanted to like just build a motorcycle garage, that doesn't have to be more than like 4 feet wide. Just a small like shed that I put my motorcycle in over the winter, and I keep it covered in that shed and keep it safe from the elements in there, and there you go. And then I have that, for a hobby that is as potentially dangerous as motorcycle driving, there is an inherent connection where you have to know your bike and you have to trust your bike. I guess if you're going to push it at all. Like, I don't know if I really like that kind of danger. I do stupid shit all the time. I don't need a motorcycle to do hinky shit.
Yeah.
But
you're going to find out if you have that passion for the experience. Yeah. And then you can take that passion and combine it with your aesthetic, to buy the bike you want. I mean, if you don't really get anything out of that experience of learning how to do it, then you'll know where you're at. So I think you're approaching it in a smart way.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait until you have the experience.
I'm just going to wait it out.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ride this whole thing out.
You don't have any need to pick a direction right now.
That's true. But on the upside, the new MacBooks are fucking garbage.
Yeah.
They fucked the keyboards up. They got rid of MagSafe. They have no legacy ports. I mean, legacy ports, not that big a deal. You just get different USB cables. You're fine.
Yeah.
But that MagSafe, the fucking the keyboard up so bad.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the escape key, because just like so many fucking programs use that, and you want to tie that into some sort of virtual display that's just a fucking gimmick that nothing actually is going to use. What the fuck, Apple?
It's hard to be an Apple fan these days, a little bit.
In some ways.
Man, they've done such great things in the past. And I have hardware that's almost 10 years old that still is working great. And in the life of a computer, I mean, I think that's
It's huge.
pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
And the performance is still really, really good.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're spending a lot of money if you buy a newer, near the top of the line Apple, but it really lasts for you. And I've got nothing but respect for that and the further reliability. That said, some of the current offerings are not ideal, and I hope they can get their heads out of their ass pretty soon. I hope they can get that modular Mac Pro going at some point. I hope they can update the fucking Mac Mini at some point, because that's a great platform that they're ignoring. And certainly they need to sort out the laptops. There's some issues, but
I think they're getting hit with class action suits because they moved to these this keyboard model. I think they call it the butterfly key, which I can't explain entirely.
Oh, the mechanics of how the
Something
key presses.
about the key press.
Yeah.
And it is an extremely low travel key. And if even a small bit of dust gets, like a small bit of particulate gets under the keyboard's ruined. And because, or the keyboard needs significant maintenance. It doesn't need, I don't know if it's physically ruined or needs to be opened up and cleaned, but the manufacturer of it makes the opening and cleaning it horrible. Like it's a horrible thing in the unibody construction that they have. It's just really bad. So like Apple they're courageous about unorthodox designs sometimes and doing something that's really stylized, but they're also fucking like so infuriatingly stubborn when they make a mistake and just cling to their guns about like, no, it is the consumer who is wrong. Fuck the headphone jack.
Yeah, I respect the headphone jack move because that is like an ancient technology that if there's an honest reason to move past, I feel like there's a case for innovation there. Maybe an unpopular view. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I would still counter with what's better. And it's not really.
They both work. I don't know if either one is better. One is smaller.
Well, there's like this. There's a wrinkle, and it's Apple didn't really roll the implementation out quite right. Is because when you plug because the Lightning connector also works as an audio connector, when you plug the charger in, it gives the charger the audio connector. It's like there's some sort of wrinkle that makes it difficult that I don't get into because I'm not buying anything without a headphone jack. But their whole reasoning that I kind of respect is they see that the headphone jack is going to be a design limitation. And rather than work with that limitation for as long as possible and get rid of it at the last second, they want their designs going forward to not have that limitation and just work from there. Which is on some level okay, but on some level you don't have to build an Xbox Connect level camera for all this bullshit that I don't want that keeps it thick. But anyhow, this is not the head. I know there's different opinions, very valid opinions on the headphone jack, but like it's more stuff like MagSafe. Their MagSafe power connector on their laptops was the envy of the entire like portable computing world because it was just perfect. It was so well designed. It was solid when it's connected. If something happens, it pops away without breaking, no problem. and they got rid of it for just about no reason.
Yeah, that one I don't know the particulars of, and certainly cannot defend in any way. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. I certainly enjoy my MagSafe power supply.
Yeah.
On my laptop. It's as you say, it's really solid. It's just a really great implementation. I don't know.
Yeah, but who knows? But I will say that they are doing great things. Company-wise, they've been like technologically, they've been absolutely on the right side of issues when it comes to privacy.
Oh, yeah.
Where Google is rolling out their new... You've seen the demo thing where you can use a Google personal assistant and it will spawn an AI-controlled voice to make and schedule. Like, it's hinky. It's the example that they give is you say, hey, Google, can you make me a hair appointment for... between 10 and noon on Tuesday. And then it spawns an AI voice that places the call to the hair salon and has a conversation with the hair salon, not letting on that it's a computer, and interprets everything that the salon says and then makes your appointment and puts it in your schedule.
Without you having a...
You have nothing to do with it. It makes the call for you.
That's a little more autonomy than I want to give up at this point.
Well, it's fucked up because I find it extremely rude to the salon because the salon is like dealing with basically a robocaller that is like throwing in as many human speech patterns to try to seem real, but it wasn't entirely real. And the other thing is that Google is in the middle of all these transactions because it all takes place not from your phone, but from the Google servers, and they're just scraping your data. So like time and time again, Google has like demonstrated that the don't be evil days are gone. Evil is okay. Yeah, we're going to support drone strikes. Yeah, we're going to do whatever we want to do to become more powerful. But Apple's been pretty cool. Apple's like, no, we're not going to, if we intentionally build a back door, that's going to be a disaster because that's going to get out and it's just going to be horrible. Like,
yeah,
we're not going to do that.
Right.
So like they're pushing back in the ways that as a consumer, I take it as them advocating for my interests.
Right.
And so, I applaud that.
And because they're such a big economic power, that stance actually matters.
Yeah.
If they were a smaller company, no one would give a shit. So,
yeah, exactly. But all the same, let's get some refreshes. I want new MacBooks. I want new Mac Minis, new Mac Pro.
Definitely.
Even though I gotta say, like, I'm really enjoying my Hackintosh. Like, that's with the understanding that it will never be as reliable and seamless functioning as an actual Mac Pro.
Right.
It cost a fraction of a Mac Pro, but it's not going to last 10 years.
Would you say it's a half the price, quarter of the price?
I'd say a third of the price.
Okay.
With better performance
than the current
offerings.
Right?
If I had spent $3,000 on a Mac Pro, my Hackintosh at $1,000 would still outclass it.
Okay.
But
you pay for that with updatability, ease of use, and reliability, right?
Yeah, and really the thing that's always been the Apple claim to fame is that because their ecosystem is so tightly controlled, the operating system knows exactly what hardware it needs to support. there is no wild card. It's not like it's going to run into some exception with this motherboard. There's like they know exactly the motherboards that are in this.
Mm-hmm.
So it just doesn't come up. Everything works really well together because that's what the entire operating system was written for. So, I just if they did a refresh and they showed that, yeah, I'll say it. If they did a refresh and they showed that like they are grown enough to listen, that people really are like not even pissy, they lament certain things that they used to have that they lost. If they can adapt to that, then yeah, I'm not getting a motorcycle. I'm going to spend $4,000 on a new laptop.
Nice.
If they really,
if they get their shit together.
If they get their shit together.
Yeah.
Come
well, that's
on,
cool.
dudes.
I respect that.
Yeah.
So, it's getting close to wrap up time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's touch briefly on video games.
Yes.
You playing anything these days?
I am. My big thing is I don't buy new games usually. I wait on consoles until there's a pretty good selection of games that I can get for $10 each. Not because $10 is the price point, but just when the library is sufficient that people have gotten and played and returned fantastic games that are now $10 each, that's when I get in the game and it's great. So that said, I'm currently getting lost in Fallout 4 and it's super good.
Cool.
Yeah. What are you playing?
I am playing Mordor Shadows of War.
Oh, I've heard great things.
I liked the game quite a bit until I got to the final act, which I read a lot about. If there's any criticisms of this game, it's that the end game is a punishing grind. And I just got to that part, and I'm feeling pretty pissed off because the criticisms are accurate, and even though they just released some updates that's supposed to better balance the end game, I'm still finding it pretty frustrating.
I heard something about this.
Yeah.
I heard that it's got this nemesis system that can just absolutely ruin the game for you.
Well, I don't know if it's the nemesis system itself that ruins the game. The nemesis system can do some cool things. Some of it's bullshit, and it's bullshit that you can't skip the introduction of every goddamn captain you come across, because they all have these lines of dialogue that they say that you can't skip. That gets really frustrating in and of itself. But the Nemesis system does some cool things. I'm not against the system itself, but the end of the game is programmed to be this defense mode. There's a bit of a plot twist that I won't go into, but basically the mechanics change a little bit at the end, and you have to end up defending the strongholds that you captured in the first part of the game. Okay. Which, that makes sense. Okay. But the difficulty is fairly high, and if you personally die at any point during the defense, you lose, and you lose the stronghold. And then there's not really a punishment for dying. You just have to now go through all the bullshit of recapturing that stronghold as if you never had it in the first place. So there's 5 or 6 missions you jump through if you want to weaken it before you try to take it over again, and then you have to take it over again with your... It's just really more work than it should be. And it kind of really puts a sour taste in your mouth for the end of the game, which is a shame because the rest of the game is actually pretty engaging.
But that mechanic just doesn't work out, and it's not really fun forward.
It was. I just got into it today, and it really frustrated me. I died a couple times under circumstances that were pretty stupid, and it's just punishing. It's just needlessly. If it's a grind, and there's no point to it. It's not like you have to do X, Y, Z. It's just a needless grind that they programmed in that just feels like punishment. It's really sad.
So if anybody's listening who is not familiar with the game or is not familiar with like what the Nemesis system is,
oh yeah,
can you?
So basically, it's set in Middle Earth. It's a Lord of the Rings universe, and I think I'm unclear on the timeline because I'm not that into that fictional setting, but I think it's just before some of the movies, right? So you're in between like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, I think. Is basically how it goes. So the Nemesis system is... There's a bunch of grunts. There's enemy grunts, the orcs. You're fighting orcs, basically. So the Nemesis system is a way of differentiating and trying to give life to the enemy captains. So the captains are a level above. They have certain characteristics, strengths and weaknesses and levels to them. When they kill you, they go up in levels and they're promoted and stuff like that. You can either kill them or you can dominate them and kind of add them to your army. So it's kind of fun. Sometimes when you kill people, this Nemesis system basically just remembers what has happened. So sometimes people can come back from the dead and now they're stronger and now they have a special hatred for you and their stats change, their weaknesses and strengths change, and you have to go at them again. And they say certain things to you. There's a lot of recorded dialogue that changes. It's different every time you run into these guys. And it brings some variety to the gameplay. It brings some familiar faces back. It makes it adds a level of something to the game. It's kind of cool. And it generates random missions where certain captains are fighting each other. You can go to support this guy, or you can go to try to accomplish certain objectives. It's fun. When you start dominating them, they have Nemesis missions for your allies, so you can go and support your allies and try to make sure they rank up as the game goes on. So the system itself is all right. It's kind of cool.
See, the way it was explained to me is, you're playing along and then like you kind of fuck up, this guy kicks your ass and you got to fight him again.
Yeah.
And then you go to fight him again and he really kicks your ass because it rewarded him for beating you last time and he's harder now.
Yes.
And then like to touch on what you were saying, let's just say you beat him and you have like this, you may have an opportunity where you can kill this guy, or you can turn him to be on your side.
Right.
So you turn him to be on your side, things going on. A little down the road, he gets killed or he gets separated, whatever. And he's like, you fucking left me to die. Like he gets super pissed about that and then turns back and is really, really fucking has it in for you.
Yeah.
So it's like... My friend at work who was playing this game is like, I had to dial that shit way down because
Fair enough.
Was like, I slipped up and I thought this one guy was going to be easier than he was. And after that one slip up, they started ratcheting up the power for this guy. And every time he beat me, he became like more and more impossible to beat.
Yeah. There's certain strengths or attributes that some of these guys can have where they do more damage than normal. So you fuck up once or twice and you're dead,
Yeah.
and you're never fighting one-on-one. It's always a fucking crazy melee where there's a bunch of grunts on you. There's a couple of the beasts, the animals attacking you, and this captain that you're trying to kill.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, captains end up ganging up on you too. So when you're trying to fight 3 bosses at once, you're often at a huge disadvantage. So if you're smart, you'll run away. If you're dumb, you're like, all right, I'll fucking try this, whatever. And you get your ass handed to you. And, it can be tough. So you really have to manage what you're doing. You have to remember all the different strengths and attributes that you have, which are somewhat customizable. In a way, there's... they try to strike that balance between being easy to understand and easy to play with having those upper levels of really being able to use the skills that you have and hit the right buttons at the right time of the advanced player. And sometimes it's frustrating, I'll be honest.
There's a charm, though. I mean, there's a whole genre of game that I think it's the Dark Souls genre, which
God.
is it's gonna suck, but you're here for that suck experience. You are here to throw your controller. You are here to it distorts the player's mind so much to play that while you're playing, if you can find a spot in the board where you're kind of behind a rock or something and you can just shin kick someone to death, you feel completely justified because the game most certainly would have cheaped you out. No sweat.
Yeah.
You're just I don't even feel bad about this.
That's what hurts the most. One of the things that killed me inside today was I was in this big fight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concentrating. I think I was fighting 2 bosses at once. I was trying to kill one of them, and this what they call a Karagor, this beast that you can use as a mount if you break them. If they're on your side, you can mount them and ride them around. They're a big thing, and they can just, if you hit the wrong buttons, if you don't counter the attacks properly, they just kill you because they're these huge, warg type things.
Okay.
So, I missed the timing on my button press. Otherwise, in the middle of this battle, plenty of health, this thing just ripped me up. And exactly, that was it.
That's that.
And it's just so frustrating. So you lose the whole mission you were on. You have to fucking redo the whole thing.
You gotta listen to all that dialogue again.
Oh my God. So stupid.
I love it.
It's tough. Part of me really wanted to take that disc out and just break it.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't.
I do this thing with the controller. What's your usual stress thing? Because I do this thing where I get pissed and I will take it and I twist the controller. I twist it and I hear it groan a little bit when I twist it. And I know that I'm just one day going to be oh, and that's it.
Well, if other
Probably
people
slice my hand open.
Yeah. If other people are home, I can contain myself, but at this point, I was alone in the house. I just started screaming. I was just you motherfucking really? Really?
That's amazing.
I was pissed.
But I guess you didn't sign up for that experience with this game.
No, I don't. I'm not I'm getting more casual, and the older I get and the less free time I have, I'm not signing up for a frustrating experience. I want the level of challenge I'm looking for isn't that great. I want something I can overcome without a huge investment of time and effort. I want entertainment. I don't want a huge challenge. And I know that's not everybody. That's just where I'm at. But when you're going for a certain experience and you get something else,
exactly,
or when an experience that you sign up for that's been fine all along suddenly changes, that's where you feel cheated.
Yeah. No, I get you. I get you. Because, like, people aren't like, I bought Dark Souls 3, and I don't know what the fuck's up with this game.
Right.
It's crazy hard.
Yeah.
Because you know what you fucking did.
Right.
But,
or you should have known.
Yeah, you really should have known.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think to have had a really fun experience and then the mechanics change and they're kicking you in the balls over and over again, I think you're not wrong. I think that they kind of made mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little hard to take, but I'm still in it. I lost a lot of ground earlier. I took a break. I came back to it. I regained some of that ground, so I'm still playing it. It hasn't ruined me yet. I'm going to see if I can do it. As I said, they did make some gameplay changes to that end game.
Really. I glitched out. My apologies.
Yeah. There it is.
Nice.
Okay. So, yeah. Sorry about that.
We've been caught in a time loop.
Technical difficulty.
This is the 400th time we've recorded the close of the show, so it's getting a little punchy. If you're reading this, yeah, I hope it was worth it. You know, we had some serious discussions that, you know, maybe in this iteration of reality didn't make it out, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm glad we survived. Hopefully this message makes it to you.
This is like the beginning of Prince of Darkness. Or the end.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
John Carpenter. It's great stuff. Check it out.
Anyway. Do it. So anyhow, yeah, we drank some stuff. We talked video games. We talked video games kicking you in the balls and stuff. And talking about, we divulged all sorts of secrets in previous iterations about what you can expect from next time. But
oh, that's true.
But whatever, man.
Yeah, hopefully in the next month, I'll be able to finish my record and actually get it out. So
yeah, that's the most important takeaway.
Yeah, hoping to put some cover art together and get that out the door. So hopefully that'll be available soon, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, I as well, even though like I've said it before, I really mean it. I'm really excited for your new release, and I can't wait. Can't wait.
Thank you. All right, so that's about all we got for these kids.
From C137, we're going to sign out.
What? Cesium?
No, that's C137, the Rick and Morty.
The universe.
The main track dimension.
I see.
Yeah. So, yeah. Peace out.
All right. Have a good night, guys. See you next time. Peace.